Okay. So thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I'm here with Miss Regina Crumpler. She's here to share with us an amazing story about her daughter and her family and their journey. And so I just want to take this time to just allow her to maybe introduce herself. I know I just said her name, but introduce herself as well. And then we'll get into her story. So thank you for joining us on Silent Voices.
Yes, well, thank you guys for reaching out to me. This is an honor and a privilege, and I appreciate you guys inviting me to tell my story. Yes, so I'm Regina Crumpler. My husband is John Crumpler, and we have two sons, Joshua and Justin. And yeah, I we have a daughter. Her name was Crystal Joy Crumpler, and she was born on May 30th, 2004. So it's been 20 years. So it's been a long. Time just flies. It goes by really
Yeah.
fast. But yeah, she was born May 30th. She would have been this past May. She would have been 20 years old,
Mhm.
and she was born with a brain injury. The medical term is hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. I is trying to pronounce this word, but
Yeah.
it's a medical condition. It's called HIE,
Uh-huh.
and basically what it is. It's just that it's a brain injury that happens during labor or during birth,
Mhm.
where oxygen is cut off from the oxygen flow to the brain. So what happened was my uterus actually ruptured during labor, and
Mm.
so when that happens, all the oxygen from the mother to the baby gets cut off. So of course she had no oxygen to her brain, so her brain cells began to die.
Mm.
So she actually was born comatose, which means she was born in a coma. Well, they actually had to resuscitate her
Mhm.
when she was born. They worked on her for a while to get her back to breathing and heart rate, and, heart starting and all that. So they were able to do so, So but she was put on a ventilator, and they
Mhm.
didn't think that she was going to make it through the night.
Yeah.
So her kidneys had shut down, and they said usually after that you go into cardiac arrest and then you die. So we were there at the hospital. Of course, I was there too because when your uterus ruptures, you lose a tremendous amount of blood, and so I almost died myself. We got to the hospital just in time,
Wow.
so we both were miracles
Yeah.
that day to have lived. So they came in our room at about 3 o'clock in the morning. My husband and I, we were in our hospital room, and the doctors came in. Like three different doctors came in, and they told us what the diagnosis was for her and
Mhm.
what her prognosis would be. And so they diagnosed her with this severe brain injury because oxygen was cut off to her brain. She had very little brain activity. So her kidneys had failed. They didn't think she would make it through the night. But thank God she did, because we
Yeah.
told the doctors, we said, well, we're people of faith. We believe in miracles. And he said, well, it's actually going to take a miracle for this. It really is. So, but they said that her survival was very slim, but her chances, if she did survive, her chances for intact survival, meaning her being normal, was next to nothing. So
Yeah.
they pretty much said that she would never really have any mental abilities to see, hear, talk, walk, or do any of those things. But the next couple of days, her kidneys began to work again because at that time, our pastors at that time, we were going to a church in Fayetteville, and so the
Mhm.
pastors came up from Fayetteville to Raleigh, and we prayed over her and everything, and her kidneys began to work. And so they said, "Oh, she has a wet diaper." So her kidneys started working on
Yeah.
their own. So God healed her kidneys, and and then she was in the hospital for about 3 months after that. They put in a tracheostomy, which
Mhm.
is, they put a surgery, a hole in a trachea here that extends to your lungs so she could have a opening to breathe. And she
Mhm.
was on a ventilator. And then they did a gastrostomy procedure because she couldn't swallow.
Yeah.
So she had no blinking reflex. She could not swallow. She had no facial expressions or any kind. She never talked. She never walked.
Wow.
Yeah, so she was pretty much just there. And they said that she would be that way for the rest of her life. But she lived for 15 years, which was a absolute
That's
miracle. That
mhm.
was a blessing, an absolute miracle. They did not expect her to make it for 15 years.
Mm.
So that was devastating news to hear for us and for our
Mhm.
family because, like I said, I have two sons, and at that time they were 6 years old and 8 years old.
Mhm.
So I wanted a little girl, so I had prayed for a little girl.
Yeah.
God blessed me with a little girl,
Yeah.
and this happened. So we were blindsided. We really were. We were blindsided. It almost was like I'm in a dream. a
Oh,
nightmare,
yeah.
and I'm just waiting
Yeah.
for I'm waiting to wake up.
Mm-hmm.
And as time went on, I'm like, "Oh, this is not a dream. This is reality. This is
Wow.
really reality for us."
Wow.
So she was in the hospital for 3 months. And so we had a choice to make with the severity of her diagnosis. We knew that she was going to need 24-hour nursing care, 24-hour
Yeah.
medical care, and we knew that we just could not do that at our home. And
Mm,
so we found out about the facilities through the hospital. So the hospital had told us about some facilities that she might could go to. The facility that was close to that was here in Raleigh,
mm-hmm.
they initially told us that they would not be able to take her because the doctors thought that she was going to have to be on a ventilator for the rest of her life.
Okay.
And so we were really praying, no, that's not going to happen. She's going to be able to breathe on her own, with the tracheostomy that she had. So when
Mm-hmm.
they did that, they tested it for about a week and they said, wow, she doesn't need to be on the ventilator. She doesn't need to. So we were like, thank God, because
Yeah.
she would have had to go to a facility, maybe that was, I think, about maybe 2 hours away. We were
Mm-hmm.
like, that's just too far. That was too far for us. So God answered that prayer. But what I did was they actually had us to fill out a form for the other facility because they just knew that she was not going to be able to go to the one in Raleigh. So what I did was I said, okay, God, I'm going to fill this out. I'm going to go ahead and do what they're asking me to do. I'm going to fill it out. But at the same time, God, I'm trusting you that
Yeah.
she will not have to go there. And
Mm-hmm.
so he worked it out how she did not have to go 2 hours away.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we did not want to have to put her in a facility. But at the same time, it was a no-brainer for us because we would have had to change one of our rooms in our home to a like a hospital room
Yeah.
because she was hooked up to machines and just different things.
Yeah.
So I know everybody doesn't choose to do that, but in our particular case, because of the severity
Of the
of her
situation.
diagnosis and the
Mm-hmm.
situation, we're like, well, we would not be able to handle this at all. And at the same time, we wanted to. I'm sorry, you can jump in anytime you want to if
Oh
you want
no.
to.
Well, I just wanted to ask, so as a family, what are some of the things that you all talked about when making this decision, when making that decision to um, place her in a home and not
Okay.
have her at your home?
Yeah. Well, again, one of the main things was um, what resources did we have?
Mm-hmm.
We would have to hire. We would definitely had to hire a full time nurse or somebody to be here 24/7
Yeah.
because she had to have medical care at nighttime, in the middle of the night. She was on like 10 or 15 different meds that they had to give her. So we discussed that, and then we also discussed how would that change the dynamics of our family.
Mm.
Um, our boys were 6 and 8 years old at the time, and they're still boys. They want to play and
Mm-hmm.
do different
Yeah.
things, and so we wanted to try to keep that as normal as possible for them. And I know we know that if she was here and we had to do all of that, that would have been a lot of stress, a lot of tension, a lot of family as we knew it would be totally
Would
different.
change. Yeah.
So we
And
had to
we've
think
definitely
about those
seen that
things.
happen. We've seen that where because of one child who may have a disability of some sort, where it changes the whole dynamics of how the family even goes out to eat, you know,
Right,
how they vacation, just different things, how the husband and wife can interact or even date,
right.
how it really impacts the whole dynamics of that.
Hmm.
So, yeah, that's definitely something that has impacted a lot of families. We've definitely seen that. So how much do you think your faith played a factor in this?
Oh, it was everything. I mean, it was everything. I'm telling you, from me surviving that day to her surviving that day.
Yes.
And I'll say this too, about maybe a month and a half before she was born, I was in my bathroom and it came on me so strong to
Mm,
pray against death
yeah.
over myself and her. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know why at the time, but it was on me so strong. And
Mm,
so I did. And then when this happened, I said, oh, now I see why God had me to do that.
yes.
Because I wouldn't have made it. She wouldn't have made it either. So our faith was what we held on to because at the time we didn't know of any other couple that was going through this.
Yeah.
So we relied on our faith, we relied on each other, relied on our family, our pastors.
Mhm.
So faith played a tremendous role. It did. We could see God working so many little small miracles throughout the 15 years of her life.
Mhm.
We were, of course, we were praying for a miracle, ultimate
Yeah.
miracle, that she
Mhm.
will be healed and all that. But we did see that God was with us. And I mean, we just, times that I was kind of questioning things, and
Mhm.
I was depressed and down, and okay, God, I didn't expect this. But every time he would always either give me a dream
Mm.
or give me a scripture.
Yeah.
Someone will call me and give me a scripture,
Yeah.
something that would let me know that he was with us, and that I got you, and
Yeah.
you're gonna get through
Gonna be
this.
okay.
I
Yeah.
did have, and I had a dream where we were concerned about Crystal because she could not tell us when she was in pain because
Mm.
she didn't talk. She was constantly hooked up to a pulsometer, which monitored her oxygen levels and her
Mm.
heart rate and all that. And if she was in any pain or anything, her heart rate would go way up. Those are the ways that they could tell that she was in pain.
Mm.
So I was like, well, God, is she okay? Is she hurting? Is she this? Is she just really questioning God as to,
Yeah.
how is she doing? And I literally had a dream where she was talking to me,
Wow.
and she was in her, at that time she was in like a big crib at the facility. And as she got older, of course, she moved to her bed. But at this time, I looked at her in the crib, and she looked at me and she smiled, and she said, Mommy, she said, I know everything that's going on. I
Wow.
was like, what do you mean? She said, I know all these people. She started naming off the people that worked at the
Oh,
place.
wow.
And
Yeah.
then she said, Mommy, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Mm.
I was like, oh my gosh, God, thank you so much. She had the biggest smile.
Yeah.
And when I woke up, it was so real. It was
Mhm.
just so real. And I was like, oh, that was just a dream, but it was so real.
It was
God
real.
was letting me know she's okay. She's fine. I got her. I got you all. You don't know what that did for me. I mean, that was
Mhm.
so our faith and praying. And like I said, I could sit here and tell you stories until late tonight about how God just came through. I'm serious about how God just
Yeah.
came through in
Yeah.
different scenarios where the doctor thought she was going to make it, and she surprised them. And
Yeah.
I mean, our faith was tremendous. It really was. It
So
was.
let me ask you about your family. So how did you all navigate this decision? Because I'm sure everyone did not feel the way you all felt, like did not support your
Mhm.
decision. Like, how did you all navigate that with family members or even maybe church members? How did you all navigate that?
Yeah, that's a good question because at the church that we were going to at the time, which was in Fayetteville, one of the members asked us, "You guys are going to put her in a facility?"
Mhm.
They were questioning, some of them were questioning that. And well, that's your daughter, that's your child. How can you do that? But I told them, I said, I think the best thing for her
Mhm.
and for our family is to do that. And I tried to explain to this person that the you know the depth of the severity, of the
Mhm.
diagnosis and all that. And
Yeah.
she really needed medical care. And another thing that played a role in us doing this is because we live about 45 minutes away from the hospital.
Mhm.
The facility was 5 minutes from the hospital.
Wow.
So there were literally years where she was in the hospital every single month.
Mm.
So we said, well, that's closer to the hospital than we are. And there was emergency situations all the time where she had to be rushed to the hospital. So that worked in her favor. That was better for her.
Mhm.
That worked in her favor, being closer to the hospital. And then we also said, as we were going through this, some of the doctors were asking us, how are we doing? Because I
That's
believe the statistic was 70% of married couples who
yeah,
have children that are disabled in divorce.
that's true.
And so we're like, yeah, that's really going to be, John and I, we were in agreement
Mm.
that we think that that will be the best place for her.
Mhm.
Um, if she wasn't that severe, then I could see how, some people will say, well, we can try to do what we can here at home.
Yeah.
But in her case, it would just, I mean, it was
Charity of it.
mutations and just going to different things. And our sons actually, that summer, she was in the hospital for 3 months. So every single day for 3 months, we were up at the hospital. So
Wow.
that particular summer, they had no summer when they were out. They out for school, but we wanted to try to make it as comfortable for them as possible and make it as. So we prayed about it. Um, Even some of the doctors had told us that you all might should just, when she was still in the hospital, take her off the ventilator and just let her pass, because
Mm-hmm.
they had never seen. One doctor told me, she said, we've just never seen it really work. We've seen it mess up families. We've seen
Wow.
how the child would just get pushed over to the side and get
Mm-hmm.
forgotten about, and so you all might want to think about just taking her off the ventilator and letting her pass. And I said, well, I'm not going to play God and do that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah,
prayed for her. I'm not going to take her life from her.
that's it.
And I'll say this too: at the time, our pastor prophesied over us at the time, the church we were going to in Fayetteville, and said that God was working a miracle, and said that if it wasn't for her to be here, she would have been dead a long time ago. And
Wow.
this was like when she was about maybe 3 months old. So
Mm-hmm.
that confirmed to me that we made the right decision to not take her off the ventilator and let her pass, because God had a plan that He wanted to use this for whatever reason. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in terms of faith, it built my faith up more. I
Wow.
grew spiritually
Wow.
tremendously. I
Yeah.
grew. So I look back on it now and I'm thinking, well, God, what? Because she passed back in October 15th of 2019. And
Mm-hmm.
I said, well, God, thank you. She was with us for 15 years. And then
Yeah,
I look
that
back
was a
on it.
blessing.
That was a blessing. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the doctors would say she's the toughest little girl I've ever seen. We literally would, back then they didn't have the ear pods that you put in, but they had like the little headphones.
Yeah.
So we would hook her up to the CD that was playing scriptures and would put
Mm-hmm.
it to her ears just so she can hear it. And
Yeah.
her spirit, man, was so strong. I mean,
Mm.
she went through so much, and the doctor said, this is the toughest little girl we've ever seen.
Wow.
I mean, she
Mm.
went through a lot. She went through a lot, but her faith helped her too with her. The Bible says that the spirit of a man will sustain a man in his infirmity. So her
Mm-hmm.
spirit was so strong because of us pumping that word into her, that
Mm-hmm.
it caused her to, she had, I think she had faith too. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, she was tough. She
Yeah.
went through stuff that I don't know that
Yeah.
I could have gone through, with all
Mm.
the stuff that she went, the surgeries and just all different things that she had to go through. So our faith played a tremendous role. It did.
So I heard you mention the facility that you all chose. So
Mhm.
what led you to that facility?
Well, the hospital is the one that referred us and told us about the facility. Because again, we didn't know of anybody else that had gone through anything like this before.
Mhm.
So we went through the hospital is the one that
Okay.
told us about it. And so we actually went there to tour the place. And when I toured that place, I left there in tears.
Mm.
I just went back
Wow.
in my car and just sat down and I just cried. I was like, God, this is not supposed to happen.
Yeah.
My baby's supposed to be coming home with me. And now I'm looking at a facility to put my child in.
Yeah.
Um, but again, our faith is
Mm-hmm.
what got us through, because prior to that, I had a dream where I was walking through this facility and there was nurses and doctors. And I'm like, why am I walking through this facility? And then I think in that same dream, my pastor said she's supposed to be there for a reason.
Wow.
And so that confirmed to me, okay, that's where that
She,
helped us make a decision too, that's
hmm.
where she's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's how we found out about that particular facility. There's It was that facility in Raleigh. The
Hmm.
facility name is Hilltop Home.
Okay.
Yeah, Hilltop Home in Raleigh. They're close to Wake Med Hospital,
Okay.
5 minutes, well, not even 5 minutes really,
Hmm.
away from Wake Med Hospital. And
Okay.
then the other facility was in either Goldsboro, I think,
Hmm.
or it's
Okay.
about 2 hours away, too far away.
Too
And
far.
then
Yeah.
the other one that was closest was in Charlotte.
Oh, that's
So
even.
they may have some more now, but back then, yeah, that definitely was out of the picture, so but that's how we found out about that.
So tell me a little bit about the relationship that you had. We have like 10 more minutes.
Okay.
So tell me about a little bit about the relationship you have with the individuals at the facility today after Crystal being there for like 15 years. So
Mhm.
what sort of relationship do you have now with the individuals at the facility?
Oh yeah, they were like our family. They really were. I mean, I call that my home away from home is what I
Yeah.
call it, because we were able to go there, and I was able to bathe her, do her hair, wash her hair, go there when they offer education there. So she was there in a
Oh, wow.
classroom. Yeah, they have education there. They have occupational therapists there, physical
Hmm.
therapists there. They feed the kids. Of course, she was fed via G-tube, but
Hmm.
I could go there and visit her in the classroom. And I mean, they treated her like they were their own.
That's
They were
awesome.
a second family, absolutely. Even to the point now where they asked us to be on their board. They have a what is it, human rights committee, and we meet every quarter. And so I'm
Hmm.
still on that board now.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, so every quarter we meet, and of course they, discuss the kids there, and just to
Hmm.
make sure that not the students, that the children there, because it's a facility just for children who
Yeah.
have mental disabilities, physical disabilities, and just to make sure that their rights are not being violated, and just to make sure that everything is going well with the children there. So
Okay.
I enjoy being on that committee, and
That's
so
awesome.
they still reach out to me, and like I said, we meet every quarter. We're going to be meeting next month.
Yeah.
So I'm telling you, that was a godsend. Their facility was a godsend. I actually have a video on their website
Hmm.
where they asked me to. They kind of interviewed me as well from a parent's point of view
Yeah.
about the facility, and so
Okay.
I could probably
Okay.
send you that
Yeah,
link
that would be awesome. That would be
where
great.
you can, yeah, where you can look it up,
Hmm.
and of course they interview other people as well, some doctors, and it just gives you some different aspects of the facility and what they do.
Okay. So, in your final words, what would you share with a parent that may be going through a situation similar to yours, and trying to make that decision? What advice would you give them?
Well, family going through this, first of all, I would tell them to don't blame yourself. And don't beat yourself up, don't, because we were going through, okay, what did we do wrong? um that maybe if I would have got, my husband was like, well, if I would have gotten you to the hospital sooner, this might wouldn't have happened,
Mm-hmm.
just all kinds of things you're thinking about, that maybe you had some part to play in it.
Yeah.
And so, don't blame yourself. It's okay to cry, it's okay to be frustrated, it's okay to question God, because I
Mm-hmm.
definitely questioned God, and I said, well, God, this wasn't supposed to happen. I mean, um, she lived for 15 years, and every time she almost died, you brought her back through. And
Yeah.
why did she die? And I was just like, God, I don't. What was it all for? Was it a waste of time? But God spoke to me. He said that um, He that hath begun a great work in you
Mm.
is faithful to perform it and faithful to complete it. So what He was telling me was, I started something here. I haven't forgotten. I'm going to finish it. I'm going to use this, you
Yeah.
know what you've gone through, I'm going to use it. So pray, keep God first, and also make sure that you don't allow it to come between your family, don't allow
Yeah.
it to come to break your family
Mm-hmm.
up. There can be stress, it can be stressful, it can be tension, but support each other.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you might need counseling. It's okay to go get counseling if you
Okay.
need to know how to deal with how to deal with something like this. Your children might need counseling.
That's
If you
true.
have other children, so don't hesitate to get counseling if you need counseling, and
Mm-hmm.
just make sure that you keep support each other, and pray and keep God first, and you can get through it.
Okay.
You definitely can
Well,
get through it.
thank you so much, Regina. I appreciate this time. I love
Well,
your story, and I love you sharing your story. It is definitely going to be a blessing to so many. And I love the advice that you gave about not blaming yourself and not like wallowing in that blame. And it's okay to get counseling. You know, it's okay. I think a lot of times people need to hear that. They need to hear it's okay, you know, to
Right.
feel this way. It's okay. You'll get through it. You will get through it.
Right. Right.
Because those seasons are just for a moment. You know, it feels like
Mhm.
forever. It feels
Mhm.
like it can feel like forever.
Mhm.
But it's just for a moment. And find a good support system. Because I
Yes.
hear what you found in that facility was a good support system as well.
Absolutely.
A great support
Absolutely.
system. And your
Yes.
family and your church are a great support system.
Yes.
So
Mhm.
thank you so much for sharing your story. This means a lot. Like I said, Rita would have loved to be here, but
Mhm.
we actually have a respite event coming up on Thursday,
Mhm.
where we're going to have families come out and we're going to take care of the parents, taking care of the moms, just doing a little
Oh,
something
good.
for the moms, getting them massages, getting their nails done, just
Oh,
relaxing, you know,
that's
because
nice. Mhm.
sometimes families that have children with disabilities, sometimes it's very difficult um,
Right. Right.
to get that time away just to take care of self.
That's
You're
right.
always taking care of your child, you know.
Right.
So we're having an event on this Thursday to, you know, take care of some moms in the
Okay.
neighborhood that
Well,
have
that's good.
children. Yeah.
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. There's a lot more I want to say.
Oh,
A lot
yes.
more, yes.
You
So
have to do a part two.
yeah, let's do a part two.
Yes.
But yeah,
Yes, yes. And so what I'm gonna do is I want to call you about something as well. So I'll call you when we get off this. So
okay.
let's go ahead. We're going to end our session today, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We pray that what was shared today and possibly in our part two
Yes.
will be something that will be beneficial for you and your family. So thank you all so much for joining us. This is Silent Voices, and my name is Karen Law, and we will talk to you soon.
Thank you.
And I need to.